Have you ever felt that deep ache that sits behind the ribs, the heaviness that slows your breath, the quiet collapse that happens when life breaks open in ways you didn't expect? This cluster explores those moments when pain becomes a landscape, when loss reshapes us, and when our inner world feels tender, raw, or undone. These are the emotions that surface when we're hurting: the ache, the emptiness, the longing, the instinct to retreat, reach out, or simply endure. Welcome to the Heart's Compass, a journey through the landscapes of human emotion. When we're hurting, our emotions move slowly and deeply, shaped by our losses, our disappointments, and the human need to feel held, understood, and connected. This cluster explores the feelings that rise when life wounds us, the piercing intensity of anguish, the collapse of hopelessness, the depth of despair, the quiet weight of sadness, the transformative ache of grief, the longing for belonging, and the fragile effort of fitting in. Anguish, the sharp, overwhelming pain that floods the heart when loss or devastation strikes, leaving us breathless and undone. Hopelessness, the heavy collapse that drains our sense of possibility, making the future feel distant or unreachable. Despair, the deep sinking feeling that rises when we believe nothing can change, pulling us into emotional darkness. Sadness, the gentle, steady ache that honors what mattered, softening us into reflection and release. Grief, the profound emotional process of loving in the aftermath of loss, reshaping our inner world as we learn to carry what cannot be restored. Belonging, the tender longing to feel seen, valued, and held by others, especially when pain isolates us. Fitting in, the effort to mold ourselves to be accepted, often revealing the places where we fear our true self won't be enough. Here, emotion is not just reaction, it's healing. These experiences reveal how we process pain, how we seek connection, and how we navigate the space between breaking and becoming. Anguish. Anguish arrives as a rupture, a deep, tearing pain that feels too large for the body to hold, too heavy for the mind to organize. It's the moment when suffering becomes overwhelming, when the heart feels split open, when the intensity of emotion eclipses your ability to steady yourself. It doesn't ache like hurt or hollow like despair. It shatters. It creates an internal cry that whispers, "This is too much. I can't contain it." Anguish is the feeling that says, "Something inside me is breaking." Anguish is the emotional experience of overwhelming pain, a combination of grief, fear, helplessness, and devastation that converges into a single consuming intensity. It emerges when loss is profound, when betrayal cuts deeply, or when life delivers a blow that feels impossible to absorb. Anguish simplifies the moment by collapsing everything into raw, unfiltered suffering. At its core, anguish is the emotion that says, "I am in unbearable pain, and I don't know how to hold it." Anguish is the internal scream that rises when the world you knew disappears in an instant, when the ground beneath you gives way, when the heart is torn open faster than it can heal. It is the emotional breaking that happens when you're forced to confront a reality you never wanted, never expected, or never imagined you could survive. Where grief mourns and despair sinks, anguish erupts, flooding your system with intensity that feels uncontainable. It is the moment when breathing feels impossible, when your body shakes, when your mind spirals, when you feel both numb and overwhelmed at the same time. Anguish can distort your sense of time, making moments stretch endlessly, making the world feel distant, muted, or unreal. It can make you collapse inward, cry out, or go silent, not because you're weak, but because the pain is too large to process all at once. And yet, beneath this rupture lies a deeper truth. Anguish often emerges where love was deep, where meaning was profound, where something essential has been torn away. It is the emotion that reveals the depth of your capacity to feel, to care, to be changed by what matters most. Anguish becomes insight when we recognize that its intensity reflects the depth of what was lost. It becomes healing when we allow ourselves to feel it without rushing, minimizing, or numbing. And it becomes transformation when we let its breaking open create space for truth, compassion, and eventual rebuilding. May we learn to meet anguish with tenderness, not as something to fix, but as something to honor. For beneath every moment of anguish lies a longing for relief, understanding, and connection, a longing that becomes more powerful when paired with gentleness, presence, and care. Hopelessness. Hopelessness arrives as a dimming, a slow fading of energy, motivation, and belief that things can get better. It's the moment when the future feels blank, when effort feels pointless, when every path forward seems blocked or too heavy to walk. It doesn't pierce like anguish or numb like despair. It empties. It creates a hollow stillness inside you, whispering, "Nothing will change. Nothing I do matters." Hopelessness is the feeling that says, "I can't see a way out, and I don't know how to keep going." Hopelessness is the emotional experience of believing that improvement is impossible, that no action, support, or time will shift the pain you're in. It emerges when repeated hurt wears down resilience, when disappointment accumulates, or when life feels stuck in a place you can't escape. Hopelessness simplifies the moment by shutting down possibility, narrowing your vision to what feels unfixable or permanent. At its core, hopelessness is the emotion that says, "I don't believe things can get better because I've been hurting for too long." Hopelessness is the quiet collapse that happens when your inner world grows too heavy to lift, when the light you once followed feels distant or extinguished. It is the emotional exhaustion that settles in after too many setbacks, too many losses, too many moments where effort didn't lead to relief. Where sadness softens and grief honors, hopelessness drains, pulling the color out of your days and the meaning out of your steps. It is the moment when you wake without direction, when you move without purpose, when you feel disconnected from the parts of yourself that once believed in possibility. Hopelessness can distort your sense of time, making the present feel endless and the future feel unreachable. It can make you withdraw, shut down, or stop trying, not because you don't care, but because caring feels too painful when nothing seems to change. And yet beneath this emptiness lies a deeper truth. Hopelessness often emerges where you've been fighting for too long without enough support, where you've carried burdens no one saw, where you've survived more than anyone knows. It is the emotion that reveals your longing for relief, direction, and renewal. A longing rooted in the hope that something, anything, might one day feel different. Hopelessness becomes insight when we recognize the depth of our exhaustion. It becomes tenderness when we understand how long we've been carrying pain without rest or support. And it becomes healing when we allow even the smallest possibility, not of immediate change, but of being met, held, or helped. May we learn to meet hopelessness with compassion, not as a verdict on our future, but as a signal that something in us needs comfort, connection, and care. For beneath every moment of hopelessness lies a longing for renewal, direction, and light, a longing that becomes more powerful when paired with patience, presence, and support. Despair. Despair arrives as a sinking, a deep, heavy collapse inside the chest, a hollowing of energy, a sense that the light has gone out from within. It's the moment when pain stops feeling temporary and begins to feel permanent, when the weight of everything you've carried finally pulls you downward. It doesn't pierce like anguish or empty like hopelessness. It extinguishes. It creates a numb heaviness that settles over your thoughts, whispering, "There is no way forward. There's nothing left to try." Despair is the feeling that says, "I can't rise from this. I don't have anything left." Despair is the emotional experience of complete loss, the collapse of hope, strength, and belief that things can improve. It emerges when suffering feels unending, when efforts have been exhausted, or when the pain becomes too heavy to imagine relief. Despair simplifies the moment by shutting down possibility, narrowing your world to the heaviness of the hurt. At its core, despair is the emotion that says, "I am beyond my limits, and I cannot see a path out." Despair is the quiet implosion that happens when the heart can no longer hold the weight of what it has endured, when the inner flame dims to embers or disappears entirely. It is the emotional darkness that settles in after too many losses, too many disappointments, too many moments where hope dissolved instead of returning. Where hopelessness fades and anguish cries out, despair collapses, pulling you inward until even your own voice feels distant. It is the moment when your body feels heavy, when your thoughts feel muted, when your spirit feels drained of the will to reach for anything at all. Despair can distort your sense of self, making you believe that your pain defines you, that your future is already written, that nothing you do can shift the weight you carry. It can make you withdraw, go silent, or disappear into yourself, not because you want to, but because you no longer have the strength to fight. And yet, beneath this collapse lies a deeper truth. Despair often emerges where you have fought the longest, cared the deepest, or endured the most. It is the emotion that reveals the depth of your humanity, the part of you that has been stretched beyond what any person should have to hold alone. Despair becomes insight when we recognize how profoundly we've been hurting. It becomes tenderness when we understand that this collapse is not weakness, but exhaustion from carrying too much for too long. And it becomes the beginning of healing when we allow even the smallest flicker of support, presence, or care to reach us. May we learn to meet despair with gentleness, not as a final truth, but as a signal that something in us needs rest, connection, and compassion. For beneath every moment of despair lies a longing for relief, renewal, and light, a longing that becomes more powerful when paired with patience, presence, and the quiet hope that healing can begin even in darkness. Sadness. Sadness arrives as a soft weight, a gentle heaviness in the chest, a slowing of the breath, a quiet ache that settles in the spaces where something once felt full. It's the moment when you recognize what has been lost, what has changed, or what can no longer be. It doesn't pierce like anguish or collapse like despair. It settles. It creates a tender stillness that invites reflection, whispering, "This mattered to me," and its absence hurts. Sadness is the feeling that says, "Something important has shifted, and my heart needs time to catch up." Sadness is the emotional response to loss, disappointment, or unmet longing, the gentle ache that emerges when something meaningful is missing or has changed. It arises when you confront the gap between what you hoped for and what is, between what you loved and what you can no longer hold. Sadness simplifies the moment by slowing you down, drawing your attention inward toward what needs to be felt or acknowledged. At its core, sadness is the emotion that says, "I am grieving something that mattered." Sadness is the quiet rain of the heart, the soft, steady ache that washes over you when life reveals its fragility. It is the emotional exhale that follows disappointment, the tender ache that forms when love, hope, or connection is interrupted. Where hopelessness empties and despair collapses, sadness softens, creating space for reflection, honesty, and emotional truth. It is the moment when your eyes fill without warning, when your voice trembles, when your body slows as if trying to protect the tender parts within. Sadness can distort your sense of energy, making simple tasks feel heavier, conversations feel harder, and moments of joy feel distant. It can make you withdraw, grow quiet, or seek solitude, not because you want to be alone, but because your heart needs room to feel. And yet, beneath this ache lies a deeper truth. Sadness often emerges where love once lived, where meaning was real, where something mattered deeply. It is the emotion that reveals your capacity to care, to hope, to attach, a capacity that remains even when the world feels dim. Sadness becomes insight when we recognize what part of us is hurting and why. It becomes tenderness when we allow ourselves to feel without rushing or minimizing the ache. and it becomes healing when we let sadness move through us rather than holding it in. May we learn to meet sadness with compassion, not as something to avoid, but as something that honors what we've loved, hoped for, or lost. For beneath every moment of sadness lies a longing for comfort, connection, and understanding. A longing that becomes more powerful when paired with gentleness, presence, and care. Grief. Grief arrives as a wave, sometimes soft and slow, sometimes sharp and overwhelming, always carrying the weight of something or someone you loved. It's the moment when absence becomes real, when the world feels altered, when your heart recognizes that life will not return to what it was. It doesn't pierce like anguish or collapse like despair. It endures. It creates a deep ache that moves through you in unpredictable rhythms, whispering, "This mattered, and its loss has changed me." Grief is the feeling that says, "I'm holding love and loss at the same time." Grief is the emotional response to losing something meaningful, a person, a relationship, a dream, a version of yourself, or a future you hoped for. It emerges when life shifts in ways you didn't choose, when something precious is taken, or when change arrives with a cost. Grief simplifies the moment by drawing your attention to what was loved, what was lost, and what remains unfinished. At its core, grief is the emotion that says, "I am honoring what mattered by feeling its absence." Grief is the echo of love, the lingering presence of what once filled your life with meaning, comfort, or connection. It is the emotional landscape that stretches between memory and reality, between what was and what is now. Where sadness softens and hopelessness dims, grief remembers, holding the weight of what was cherished even as it mourns what cannot return. It is the moment when a scent, a song, or a place brings tears without warning, when your heart aches for what your hands can no longer hold. Grief can distort your sense of time, making the past feel close, the present feel fragile, and the future feel uncertain. It can make you withdraw, cry, or go quiet, not because you are broken, but because your heart is learning to live with a wound that may never fully close. And yet, beneath this ache lies a deeper truth. Grief is not a sign of weakness, but of depth, the depth of your love, your attachment, your capacity to care. It is the emotion that reveals how profoundly something shaped you, how deeply it mattered, how permanently it lives within you, even in its absence. Grief becomes insight when we recognize the significance of what we lost. It becomes tenderness when we allow ourselves to feel without rushing the process or judging the ache. And it becomes healing when we learn to carry the memory with gentleness rather than resistance. May we learn to meet grief with compassion, not as something to overcome, but as something to honor, tend to, and live alongside. For beneath every moment of grief lies a longing for connection, remembrance, and meaning, a longing that becomes more powerful when paired with patience, presence, and love. Belonging. Belonging arrives as a warmth, a gentle settling in the body, a softening in the chest, a sense that you are held, recognized, and welcomed as you are. It's the moment when connection feels safe, when your presence feels valued, when you sense that you don't have to hide any part of yourself to be accepted. It doesn't ache like sadness or collapse like despair. It steadies. It creates a grounding presence that whispers, "You are not alone. You matter here." Belonging is the feeling that says, "I am seen, supported, and connected, even in my hurt." Belonging is the emotional experience of feeling accepted, included, and valued within a relationship, community, or space. It emerges when others make room for your truth, when your presence is acknowledged, or when you feel safe enough to show your authentic self. Belonging simplifies the moment by easing the tension of isolation, reminding you that connection is possible even when you're hurting. At its core, belonging is the emotion that says, "I have a place where I am held." Belonging is the quiet reassurance that settles into your bones when someone looks at you with understanding, when your story is met with empathy, when your presence is welcomed without condition. It is the emotional grounding that forms when you feel woven into something larger than yourself, a family, a friendship, a community, a moment of shared humanity. Where loneliness isolates and invisibility dissolves, belonging anchors, reminding you that you are part of something, that you are not meant to carry your pain alone. It is the moment when a hand reaches for yours, when a voice says, "I'm here," when someone stays long enough for you to feel safe again. Belonging can soften the sharp edges of hurt, making the unbearable feel survivable, the heavy feel lighter, the broken feel held. It can make you breathe deeper, speak more honestly, or rest more fully, not because your pain disappears, but because you no longer face it in isolation. And yet, beneath this warmth lies a deeper truth. Belonging often becomes most meaningful when you've known the ache of disconnection, when you've felt unseen, when you've longed for a place to land. It is the emotion that reveals your need for connection, understanding, and shared presence, a need rooted in the truth that humans heal in relationship, not in isolation. Belonging becomes insight when we recognize the spaces and people who make room for our full selves. It becomes healing when we allow ourselves to lean into connection rather than withdrawing into hurt. And it becomes strength when we understand that being held by others does not diminish us, it restores us. May we learn to meet belonging with gratitude, not as something to earn, but as something we deserve simply by being human. For beneath every moment of belonging lies a longing to be seen, valued, and connected, a longing that becomes more powerful when paired with openness, trust, and care. Fitting in. Fitting in arrives as a tightening, a subtle pressure to adjust, shrink, or reshape yourself so you can be accepted by the people around you. It's the moment when belonging feels out of reach, so you trade pieces of your truth for the comfort of not standing out. It doesn't steady like belonging or soften like sadness, it strains. It creates an internal tension that whispers, "Be who they want, not who you are." Fitting in is the feeling that says, "I'll be accepted only if I hide the parts of me that don't match." Fitting in is the emotional experience of seeking acceptance through conformity, molding yourself to match expectations, norms, or group dynamics. It emerges when you fear rejection, when authenticity feels risky, or when you believe your true self won't be welcomed. Fitting in simplifies the moment by prioritizing safety over truth, connection over authenticity. At its core, fitting in is the emotion that says, "I'll change myself so I don't lose connection." Fitting in is the quiet ache of self-abandonment, the subtle erosion of your voice, your preferences, your edges, all in the hope of being included. It is the emotional mask you put on when you fear that your real self is too much, too different, or too inconvenient for others to hold. Where belonging anchors and invisibility dissolves, fitting in contorts, bending you into shapes that don't quite fit your soul. It is the moment when you laugh at jokes that hurt, agree with things you don't believe, or silence truths that matter to you. Fitting in can distort your sense of identity, making you believe that acceptance must be earned through performance rather than presence. It can make you feel lonely even in a crowd, not because you're unseen, but because the version of you being seen isn't real. And yet, beneath this tension lies a deeper truth. Fitting in often emerges where you've been hurt before, where rejection left a mark, where connection feels fragile or conditional. It is the emotion that reveals your longing for true belonging, the kind that doesn't require you to disappear to be loved. Fitting in becomes insight when we recognize the places where we've been trading authenticity for acceptance. It becomes clarity when we understand which parts of ourselves we've been hiding and why. And it becomes healing when we begin to seek spaces where our full self is welcomed rather than managed. May we learn to meet fitting in with compassion, not as a failure, but as a signal that something in us longs for real connection. For beneath every moment of fitting in lies a longing to be known, valued, and embraced, a longing that becomes more powerful when paired with courage, honesty, and belonging. hurting, our emotions become pathways through the landscape of loss. Anguish shows us the depth of our love. Hopelessness reveals where our strength has been stretched thin. Despair exposes the places where we've lost sight of possibility. Sadness softens us into truth. Grief teaches us how to carry what cannot be changed. Belonging reminds us that healing happens in connection. And fitting in reveals the tender places where we fear rejection. Together, these emotions show that pain is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of being human. They remind us that healing is not linear, that tenderness is a form of strength, and that our hearts are capable of holding far more than we imagine. As this cluster closes, may we carry forward the compassion to meet our pain with gentleness, the courage to seek connection when we feel alone, and the wisdom to honor every emotion that rises in the space between loss and renewal. For it is in the moments when we are hurting that our humanity is revealed, the quiet resilience of a heart learning how to heal.